All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. Tuesday, December 17th. What are people starting to take time off around the holidays? Come on now. What's going on here? We're just getting the show started. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. We got a good show lined up today. We got a lot going on here today. Let me throw a quote your guys' way. The structure of the show is going to be a little bit different today. I'm going to have a guest on today earlier than I typically do, but that's just me trying to accommodate. And then back half of the show, we're gonna take care of everything else. Here's a quote for today. If you believe it will work, you'll see opportunities. If you believe it won't, you will see obstacles. Of course, stuff going on literally right outside at the only time that I start the show. Hopefully that will come to an end here very soon. If you believe it will work, you will see opportunities. If you believe it won't, you will see obstacles. All right, so that's our quote of the day. Let me give everybody just a quick idea what we're going to be doing for the show today. That is just too funny. You can't time that any worse. Here's what we got going on for the show today. Just to give everybody an idea. I'm going to have a guest on, Jake Fischer, who does a lot of stuff for the Stein line, has worked in the past with SB Nation, Bleacher Report, Yahoo Sports. He does a lot of stuff specifically around free agency, trade, things along those lines. So, you know what? Let's just have a Laker conversation about what trades we can expect. What do we think will happen? What probably won't happen? We're going to do most of that today. And we just got past that December 15th threshold, which allows certain players to now be traded. There's a lot of reports and conversations now, and you guys saw my video yesterday. It's actually kind of funny. I put that Pelinka video out yesterday about there's no excuses. You should just go in and read some of the comments, how people feel right now, just about the Lakers situation. The front office need to be aggressive. There's a lot of different things that people have their opinions on, so we'll spend a little bit of time on that. So with Jake, it's going to be kind of a combination of the NBA or of the Lakers, but it's also going to be the NBA. Think of some of the other players that have been around, some of the other players that have been associated with the Lakers, or not just players that have been associated in trades. Brandon Ingram, Jimmy Butler, all those guys. So I want this to be a little bit more LA centric as well, or I'm sorry, NBA centric as well. Okay, here are a couple other things that I want to get into as the show goes on today as well. One of the other things is, did you guys hear Magic Johnson, who was on with NBA Sirius XM? He was on with them and was having a conversation. Basically, why did the Lakers not take Jayson Tatum? That was part of the conversation there. So I want to play the clip. There was actually an interesting clip. Yesterday, it's Magic Johnson coming out and saying, here's why we didn't take Tatum. The day before, or this morning, it was the agent of Jayson Tatum saying, well, here's some more context to it. Thought it was interesting. Probably, I know Magic was being honest, but if I could be honest, I don't really think I liked listening to some of the excuses that Magic had there. They just made the wrong call. That's it. There's no other way to put it. We'll spend a little time. Aaron Judge ball in the World Series was sold. Teoscar Hernandez is supposedly rumored to potentially go to another team in the NL. And then Conor McGregor versus Jake Paul. What is going on in boxing? I have no idea, but we'll spend a little bit of time on that. So appreciate you guys hanging out. To everybody on here saying good morning to you as well. Hope you guys are enjoying your cup of coffee. And as promised, very much appreciate the time here. Jake Fischer, good morning, my friend. Thank you for coming on the show.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you? Are you a coffee guy in the morning?
You know, I don't drink coffee regularly. It's not a thing. Yeah.
Tea, what, anything kind of gets you going in the morning?
What gets me going in the morning? Talking NBA.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. Well, I always do it typically when I come on in the morning. You know, I'm having my cup of Joe. So whatever it is that you're drinking, good morning to you. And thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate
nice water
you.
Right here.
There you go. Get that water in. I appreciate you taking the time. Can you, sure, before we get started, I know you and I have talked before. You've come on my radio show when I was at 710 ESPN in the past. Now just 100% here on YouTube. Can you tell a little bit of our audience too? Maybe they know you, they see the name. To tell us a little bit about your day-to-day, and then we'll start getting into some of the Laker NBA stuff that we were talking about.
Yeah, so I kind of got thrust into the NBA transaction world at Bleacher Report back in January 2021, and my book came out right over there still, or over here still.
There you go.
Built to Lose in May 2021, all about tanking in the NBA. That featured, for your LA listeners, a lot of Lakers 2014 to 2016, a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
old Kobe stories in there, because the Lakers were inadvertently tanking. Lakers fans will remember. But yeah, from there, I went to Yahoo for 2 years. I was a senior NBA reporter at Yahoo Sports. And as of late, I'm now back at Bleacher Report doing video stuff just like this, talking into the camera
Yes.
on a live stream at least once a week. And my writing is now on Substack with the great Hall of Famer Mark Stein at the Stein line. It's markstein.substack.com. So we're going to be bringing you all the latest news and tidbits
Great.
and nuggets and slop and whatever you want to call it between now and February 6th. And then as we get closer to the draft and free agency, all that good stuff too.
Well, end of the show, I'll put a link there to the Stein line and your Substack as well. And obviously everybody, a lot of my audience it's kind of been built on Laker fans, NBA fans, even though we're going a little bit more broad. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of, obviously NBA fans. So I'm sure they'll love the work that you're doing and the work you guys are doing over at the Stein line. So
thank you.
With that intro, thank you for coming on the show. I will start off by this. It's interesting watching this Lakers team on a night in, night out basis, and schedule's kind of funky. Only a couple of games really over the last week and a half or so, but they're sitting at 14-12. They got off to such a great start, and then they go 4-8 over their last 12 games. Just your opinion of what you've seen from this Lakers team so far. What if hypothetically, and I don't think, I'm hoping there isn't a scenario where this is the roster by the time the trade deadline is done, but let's just pretend here for a second. What can this current roster, do you think, do in the Western Conference?
For a long time, I was a Lakers doubter. When they made the Western Conference Finals run in 2023, the whole time I kept saying, this is a bit of fool's gold. This team isn't that good. And then they, win the NBA Cup last year, and it was a big sprint. And I think that got some people.
Huge parade across the world after that in-season tournament. Yep.
Exactly. So I think that got some people, back on the bandwagon again, and I still wasn't feeling it. Then you flash forward to this Olympics where LeBron was the biggest, most physical force of anyone in that tournament. And Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. I saw the vision. Of, if you have these two guys healthy, you can do some damage. However, this is not the Olympic roster. And the lack of shooting, the lack of defense, I mean, that was this team's calling card in 2020, right? Under Frank Vogel, they were the best defensive team in the league. It's hard to watch a team night in and night out that you and your listeners are following the Lakers much more closely than I am. But just to see a kind of, matador parade to the rim that this defense allows is tough. So I would agree that they're going to need some changes in order to fully get there. If they do just keep this roster intact, I still do hold on to that. And I think that's been part of this whole Lakers regime decision-making, that if you have LeBron and AD, you're pretty damn good. So I think that group alone, this group, is going to be a team that nobody wants to face in the first round. But how much further are you than that? I think it all kind of depends on the way the bracket breaks, the way the matchups fall, all that kind of stuff. But I would not currently list this team as a Western Conference contender.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because there are times where, I'll use as an example, they play Sunday night, play Memphis. Memphis has won 10 of their last 11 games. Ja Morant. I think a lot of people like what the Grizzlies are doing. And maybe it's just a bad matchup against the Lakers. But here the Lakers, they come out and AD leaves the game with a stinger. But by the time he comes out, Lakers never trailed in the game. And you kind of start scratching your head. I'm like, does somebody want to explain to me where this just came from? But it's in there. The problem with the Lakers is just not there on a consistent basis. I do think that the role players that they have, there's just way too many of them that you can't rely on a night in, night out basis. I just have no idea what Rui's going to give you one night, what D'Lo's going to give you another night, and you could kind of just go down the list. There have been a lot of, and you're more in this world much more than I am, but of all the names that you do hear out there and of rumors that are out there, are there players currently on this roster that you feel like, hey, there's a good chance by the time we get to February 6th at noon, I don't think this player is going to be a Laker? I know it's all just assumptions that are being made, but are there players that you feel like will eventually move on?
D'Angelo Russell and his $18 million salary is the piece. And I'm pulling up my fanspo.com trade machine right now. And I guarantee you, D'Angelo Russell has been the most traded player on this website dating back to last February. He's still there.
I believe you.
Gabe Vincent's number 2, Jalen Hood-Schifino's number 4,
Oh,
Rui's number 6. So that just goes to show how active Lakers fans have been on the fanspo.com trade machine. But yeah, I'm pulling up the roster. D'Lo's 18.6, so just so I get all these numbers right. And Jalen Hood-Schifino's 3.8 combined gets you around $22 million. That's enough to go get you somebody. Is it Kyle Kuzma? Is it Bruce Brown? You know, that type of player is attainable when you combine those two salaries. However, the Lakers are going to be very, very, very not courteous, considerate of their tax accounting because they're $30,000 below the second apron, which that's a whisker in the overall NBA, you know, bookkeeping, but it's important. You know, you cannot take back 30 grand more than what you're sending out. I mean, the Lakers can't take back any more salary than what they are sending out because they're in the first apron. That's part of the rules. But all their move making, all their decision making is going to be with that ultimate accounting in mind. So they can't be like just willy-nilly making any addition possible because that's what you do when you have LeBron James at 40 years old, what have you. Like they're still being very mindful of the CBA. So the D'Lo piece and Jalen Hood-Schifino, who of course the Lakers did not pick up his third-year option on his rookie deal. Those are the two most likely salaries going out. I mean, Christian Wood isn't even a part of this team right now. His $3 million salary is absolutely available to be moved. And then, you know, depending on what type of player they really want to go get, you know, there's a lot of buzz of them potentially wanting to go get a guard and a big from the same team, right? Like, can you go get Colin Sexton and Walker Kessler at the same time from Utah to get the $30 million in outgoing salary? Then it's a matter of, does that other team care about Gabe Vincent or Jared Vanderbilt? So I think right now, everyone, I would say, outside of LeBron, AD, Rui, Reeves, Dalton Connect, I think is probably someone who, I mean, Bronny's not getting traded anywhere, but I'd say those are all salaries that are pretty potentially like heading out the door.
Jake Fischer taking some time to join us here. You know, it's interesting when you said D'Lo's name, that's kind of the knee-jerk reaction. There wasn't much of a pause there between a player to be traded. Sure, let me throw in D'Lo. What do you make of D'Angelo Russell? What is his value in the league at this point? Just more out of curiosity, what you think. It is an expiring contract. I thought in the offseason, he may have thought, hey, I have a player option. I'm going to leave the Lakers and see if I could go get it. Even not a crazy deal, but even get 2-3 years somewhere else. What is his value? What happens to D'Angelo Russell? Even if he gets traded, doesn't get traded, his contract it's an expiring contract. What do you think his future is in the league?
Yeah, they gave him this deal 2 summers ago, a 2-year, you know, roughly $40 million with the player option to be a trade piece. So I don't think it's such a surprise that his name's out there and he would be the major salary going out the door in any potential addition here. I think the fact he did pick up that player option is very indicative of the fact that A, he wasn't going to be able to find that $18 million salary elsewhere. And B, this is going to be a theme across the league. If you're not a max player, it's going to be very hard for you to find money above the mid-level exception, which is now around $12.5 million. You go back to this past summer, I mean, you had guys like Caleb Martin and Gary Trent Jr. who were turning down deals, opting out of extension opportunities to try to test the open market, thinking they were going to get like a $20 million payday that has been routine in the NBA landscape for a long, long time. But in this new CBA, where you really do get punished for being a tax team and being in the apron and being in the second apron. I just see the appetite for teams paying players above the mid-level and below the minimum really shrinking. You're going to see it on this trade market. There's going to be few players moved who make $30 million a year. Like, it's going to be hard to find a trade for Brandon Ingram or Zach LaVine or even Jimmy Butler.
Sure.
As good as Jimmy Butler is, like, it's going to be hard. There just aren't that many of those contracts that exist. And if you are good on that deal, your team's not going to be wanting to move you. So for D'Angelo Russell, particularly next summer, if he's finding something above the mid-level exception, I'm going to be really surprised.
Wow.
I'm going to be very, very surprised.
Okay, with that in mind, is this sometimes the NBA and a business can overreact on something and say, hey, this is an issue. We gotta handle this. And then when the dust settles, they're like, yeah, we probably overreacted to this. I would imagine the NBA, do they really want to make it this difficult for deals and moves to happen? I would imagine it's good business to say, wow, Brandon Ingram just got shopped. He's joining this team and they're a real contender. Damn, Jimmy Butler just went from the Eastern Conference. He's now in the West. Do you think that the NBA executives out there are saying to themselves, led by Adam Silver, did we overreact on what we wanted to accomplish with this last, CBA and the aprons and everything else? Or do you think they're comfortable with where this is?
It's possible we get there. I think it's still a little too early right now. The CBA kicked into effect in 2023. So, or they ratified it in 2023 and it really kicked into effect this past summer. So I think they're going to want to have a couple more years, a little bit more of a life cycle before they're definitively ruling this as a failure. But both the union and the league, they're going to have opportunity to opt out of this collective bargaining agreement at any point in time. So yeah, if it gets to a point where this isn't worth the parity that the league wants, I mean, the way this is set up, it's set up for every single NBA team to basically be built like these Lakers, to be built with 2 max all-stars or all-star caliber guys, and then a bunch of role players, and to have everything be spread out and to have a bunch of teams around 500 competing like the Lakers are. And I would think, as we've been discussing, Lakers fans aren't too thrilled by what this dynamic has unfolded for that team. You go down to the Denver Nuggets, like the Nuggets are positioned right now where they were one of the most successful stories of homegrown development, right? Finding guys in the draft.
Sure.
They identified Bruce Brown on a low number, and he turns into a great role player. They lose him. Contavious Caldwell-Pope obviously won a title with the Lakers first, but then Denver brings him into the fold and on a trade by way of Washington, like post the Russell Westbrook stuff. And they had to say goodbye to him. And now, like, the best scenario for Denver to get better is to move on from Michael Porter Jr., who was someone that fell in the draft. They nurtured him. They brought him slowly along. He became this all-star caliber max contract guy in his own right. Now they might have to trade him. Like, I don't think that's a good thing for the NBA overall. I think if they're so focused on the results and getting a playoff picture where every team has a shot, I still don't know if that is going to be the case when you've got certain teams, just the way the ball bounces, the way a trade kicked into play, like the Celtics, for example, the Cavs, Oklahoma City, Memphis, those teams aren't going anywhere because they were all really set up before the CBA kicked in. So they're still going to have a unfair competitive advantage based off of all the accounting with all this stuff. So I don't know if we're going to necessarily be getting the parity that the league wants, and you're going to be having a lot less trade potential with all this stuff. So it is tricky. And I do wonder, to your point, if that is going to be the case. I mean, the league has a potential issue on its hands that people are absolutely kind of shaking their head about so far, for sure.
That's that. I love the perspective of that. And I like how you named off those few teams that some will have an advantage because the kicker really didn't start until after. So teams like you mentioned, Boston, OKC. Yeah, I always wondered for years I was doing the Lakers pregame show with Michael Thompson. And Michael and I, we'd have conversations. Lakers are about to play the Thunder. Or they're trying. It was always interesting because we, in a sense, were rooting. That one of the things I love about the NBA is, okay, yes, I'm a Laker fan, but I also like watching what other teams are doing, how they're developing. You mentioned Denver is a great example. Like for a second there, it's like, guys, that's the blueprint. You got the best player in the league, but they didn't win just because of Jokic. Look what they built around him. Look, they took a chance on Michael Porter and let him develop, even though he fell in the draft. The Aaron Gordon trade was such a quiet, but like it reminded me a little bit of when the Warriors, when they traded for Andre Iguodala with the 76ers, right? It was like a move like that. We might just be looking at Steph and Jokic and Murray and all these guys. No. That move could be the difference. I'd hate for things like that to be taken away in the league, and we'll see what happens on that front. I want to ask you this, and because you're much more, it's kind of more NBA broad. I'm curious. Yesterday I put out a video, and don't get me wrong, I know that Laker fans aren't the most, let's say reasonable. Let's use reasonable as the right way to describe it. What's the perception of Rob Pelinka and the Lakers front office around the league? They made those moves with D'Lo and about a year and a half ago or so. Didn't make a move last trade deadline. Didn't make a move in the summer. And I'm just curious, how do most people view the Lakers right now, and how do they view the front office?
I get that question a lot. I think it's because Lakers fans want to know why this front office isn't doing the
more active.
Yeah, isn't doing every trade machine possibility that fans are plugging into my fanspo.com here. And like, look, because of these new restrictions, because the Lakers only have a certain number of picks to move because they already sent a ton out the door to get Anthony Davis, to get off of Russell Westbrook, to get Russell Westbrook.
That's right.
I think you can't necessarily punish them for being more frugal now, knowing that, you know, I like to think of the NBA season as like a trip around the Monopoly board, and you need to save your cash, save your assets in case you land on Park Place or Boardwalk before you get back to go. And that's kind of how I think certain teams look at their picks. Like, you get access to your picks 7 years into the future. So every new season when the calendar flips, that was a big thing with the Lakers not trading for DeJounte Murray last year, right? They had one pick to trade, and it was like, okay, well, once we get to the summer, all of a sudden we have 3 picks to move.
That's right.
And
Pelinka was the one that kept reminding people. I almost feel like there's been a few times where he's overpromised and under-delivered. He's better off just saying, I feel like he's almost kind of created expectations like something's going to happen and nothing has.
Yeah. So that doesn't help. I think the public messaging has not been good from this team for a long, long time, especially with the JJ hire. You know, JJ would have had to have been like the runaway favorite for Coach of the Year, I think, to not get potential criticism if and when things didn't go perfectly. And it's reality. It's real life. Things are not going to go perfectly, especially with a microscope on your team like the Lakers, especially with your margin for error being even more thin year after year after year because LeBron gets older and older and older. It's really not an easy circumstance, I think, to go in with first time, completely unproven, never experienced head coach before. But from the trade market standpoint, from a roster construction standpoint, you know, the Westbrook trade, it's been relitigated over and over and over again. That's who LeBron wanted. You go get LeBron's guy. But I did think that the way they maneuvered out of that to figure out, I remember piecing it together during my reporting, figuring out that it was going to be a 3-team trade with Minnesota, and they were going to bring D'Lo back from here, and they were to get 3 guys from Utah and all that. It worked out really well. It really did. I mean, that team turned into a Western Conference Finals team that, again, I didn't believe in, but they made it there. And Reeves was a find, you know, going undrafted. They've had some success. I mean, the Rui trade, I think he's a little bit overpaid, but to just turn 3 seconds into him, I thought was very good value. So overall, I'd say they've done a pretty strong job, but I think the inactivity definitely gets all the attention because at a certain point, it's like, what is your patience really worth if you're not cashing in on that patience down the line? Like the Knicks on the other side of everything, they were preaching patience, preaching patience, preaching patience, and they just went out and
All their
got
chips.
Mikal Bridges, got Karl Anthony Towns. They
OG
are
Anunoby.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Lakers fans are waiting for that type of swoop from this front office. If they go out and they get Jonas Valanciunas and Malcolm Brogdon, like, would that be exciting enough for Lakers fans? I don't know at this point because I think it kind of has this feel of like the Lakers fans are the parents and the Lakers front office are the kid, and the parents are saying, when are you going to bring home a nice girl for us to meet? When are you going to, you know, do this and impress us? And the longer it goes, I think it's harder to appease that wanting. But I do think they're going to be more pragmatic. I don't think we're going to see them go for a Brandon Ingram or a big star. Everything I've heard is that the Lakers want to prioritize depth and having more sure pieces, to your point earlier about how they don't have so much consistency around AD and LeBron. I think that's going to be what they focus on, getting 2-3 more real rotation pieces to move up the floor of this thing.
Well, I think that's a good perspective on the front office, because I do think if you're sitting in my seat and you're talking Lakers basically every day, or you're interacting a lot with Laker fans, it is very easy to lose perspective and say, what the hell are they doing? You know, how come they didn't make a go? Yesterday, I did a video and I'm pointing out, here are all the trades that have gone down around the NBA, and whether it's the Karl Anthony Towns trade or it's DeJounte Murray going. By the way, I don't know if we should be talking about DeJounte or Daniels over in Atlanta, but I listen to the newest one. Okay, Dennis Schroeder, and they don't have to give up a first rounder to Golden State Warriors. I think the point was, well, something's got to get done, because I don't think this roster is good enough. I'm gonna end it here with this, and I'm gonna just throw some names out your way. And I like what you said when you said, "Hey, is Jonas Valanciunas and Malcolm Brogdon good enough?" I don't know if they're good enough, but I would tell you that I feel like that would be something where at least Laker fans would feel like, okay, hey, this doesn't look the exact same. We are
all right. We got something.
We got something. They are addressing something of okay, here's another big that can play with AD. I'm a fan of Malcolm Brogdon. You know, some people might like him, some people might not. Now, injury history and everything else that he's had. But I'm going to throw some names your way, and you just tell me if you think players, as I list out a player, you tell me a good fit with the Lakers or not. Walker Kessler, you think that's a player that would be a good fit for the Lakers?
You know, I'm still curious to see what Walker Kessler is going to be. I think he's still really young in his career. I don't know if you want to be having like a development project at center with this team. I understand why. You kind of think about him being a future piece, post LeBron, all that type of stuff. But I wouldn't be putting all my eggs in his basket.
How about Jeremy Grant?
Jeremy Grant, I think his contract is going to be too much to be someone to take on. Like we just talked about how
not realistic.
He's $35 million. Do you want to send out 3 players to go get him when he's not a shooter and you have all that money on the books long term? I wouldn't be going there either.
How about Bruce Brown?
Bruce Brown makes more sense to me. He's an expiring contract, so you'd have to be more aware, let's say, of what he's going to want moving forward, and be optimistic and confident on your ability to re-sign him long term. There's plenty of conversations to be had behind the scenes to make that happen. But I think from a positional fit, he can't. When he has been shooting, successfully, he's been a plus 3-point shooter. He's had years around 40%. The concern with him, though, is he hasn't played this year, and he had injury stuff dating back to last year. Like, do you want to go out and bring in someone who has not been healthy? That'd be a fearful thing for me.
Final name I'll throw at you, and then we'll call it a day here. And I appreciate your time. Kuz, what do you think of Kuz coming back?
Kuz probably makes the most sense to me of all these guys because he can play up a couple positions. He's not the 5 you want to put next to Anthony Davis, but he could play some small ball 5 in certain lineups and what have you. He's handled the LA spotlight before. He knows the championship expectations. I think he'd be kind of really energized by that situation. And he's not making so much. I think he's around
Mhm.
he's around like 22, right? So he's probably the one of all these guys that I think makes the most sense.
Jake, great stuff, brother. I appreciate you taking some time here in the morning, and we got to do this again. I know as we get closer to the NBA trade deadline, it'll be fun to kind of see what's happening around the league. But thank you for the time. I appreciate it, and we'll link up your Substack and Stein line and everything else you're doing on the bottom of the video. So thank you for doing this.
Appreciate you, man. Take care.
All right, that is Jake Fischer right there. Great stuff from him. All right, now we keep the show moving here. I know typically I don't have a guest that early, but him and I were working on trying to find a time that worked. So it's like, get on in here. Okay, interesting. I think a couple things I'll take away from it. I know there's a lot of comments here. I'll get to your guys' comments in a little bit. I think the reason why I wanted to do this, I just wanted to talk trades. I just wanted to talk, the Lakers front office, and I just wanted to talk what could happen. There's a couple of reasons. I think the timing of it is after December 15th, there were players that now were going to be available. And some of those players already traded, Dennis Schroeder, but there's other guys out there that are now available. The next key date to look at is January 15th. But to me, it is clear that the Lakers got to make a move. Clear. I mentioned this when I started the show. Go look at the video yesterday that I put out there specifically on Rob Pelinka. And I think a lot of Laker fans feel the same way. I understand the Lakers want to be frugal. I understand the Lakers want to make sure, hey, we got 2 first-rounders. We got to be very smart about it. But something in the conversation with Jake that popped up, Pelinka hasn't helped himself with over-promising and under-delivering. Guys, we only got 1 first-rounder right now. In the summer, we're going to have 3. Okay, cool. But don't say that unless you know you're going to be making a move. What I would say if I'm Rob Pelinka is we're going to have 3 first-rounders in the offseason. And at the end of the day, we might have 3 first-rounders by the time the offseason is done. We can't just go out there and make moves to make moves. We got to do things that make sense for the short term and the long term. But there has been a little bit, at least for me, there's been a little bit of, okay, well, what's the game plan then? If you're sitting in the middle, if you're sitting around 8th, 9th, 10th in the Western Conference, it's not where you want to be. And that's not, you're not a team that has a legitimate chance of competing. All right, let's take a look at some of these comments here. And then I want to go back to a couple of things that I saw right before the show started. Magic talked about not taking Jayson Tatum. That's still a conversation. So we got to get into that as well. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. See what happens, guys? I get a guest on, I forget about everybody. You know what I mean? It's like I invite you guys to my house. You guys are already over there. Then a guest comes. I go into a separate room, and I'm just hanging out with the guests. My apologies. My apologies to everybody. Let's take a look at some of the comments here. Want to see what we got here. Sucks that Kuz is the most realistic trade. Kuz is a diva. I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't know if I need to see Kyle Kuzma 2.0. I think I'm good on Kuz. I think there's other players that I would rather see. I think there's some other players that I would rather see before I'd rather see Kyle Kuzma. The Walker Kessler thing, to be honest with you, I don't mind Walker Kessler. I know he's 23 years old, and I get the idea and the concept that I get the idea and the concept of he's so young. Are you developing him at a time where you're not looking to develop guys? I get that portion, but I'd take my chances with that. I'm a fan of Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know how many games he's played this year, but I'm definitely a fan. I'm gonna put this here real quick. I'm gonna give you guys an idea. I'm gonna share something with you guys. My guy, Jovan Buha, dude's killing it, man. That guy's not surprised at all. I remember there was a time, this was years ago. I want to say Jovan was actually, if I'm correct, I think he was still covering the Clippers at the time. I remember him and I grabbed after a Laker game. It was maybe a Lakers-Clippers game. Him and I grabbed some dinner across the street. And this was probably 5-6 years ago. So I wasn't even deep into my radio career, at least behind the mic. I remember just looking at Jovan and just kind of hearing him, and he's so super young. I'm like, this guy's going to freaking kill it. He's killing it. Jovan put this out there. Lakers have been linked to. NBA Central took something that he either had in his article or in his podcast. Lakers have been linked to players such as Walker Kessler, Colin Sexton, Bruce Brown, Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, and Kyle Kuzma. I'm going to read this here. Other names that have come up in talks with team and league personnel over the last few weeks include Kessler, Sexton, Bruce Brown, Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams III, Kyle Kuzma. Lakers are not anticipated to be heavily in the mix of Miami's Jimmy Butler, New Orleans' Brandon Ingram, or Chicago's Zach LaVine. I will tell you this. I will say that, at least for me personally, I don't care as much about going out there and trying to get, a Jimmy Butler or a Brandon Ingram, just because I know how difficult it's going to be to go get one of those guys. I'm a big fan of BI. I do think this. I think if Brandon Ingram's the third best player on your basketball team, you're a championship contender. You can win a championship if BI is your third best player. If he's your best player, I don't like it as much. If he's your second best player, I don't like it as much. If he's your third best player, I believe in BI. I think that's an incredible third best player. But I don't think the Lakers are going to go out there and make a blockbuster move. It's what can you do around the edges and the depth. So I think that part of it, most Laker fans are okay with. But I think at the end of the day, I think Laker fans just want to see, you got to do something. We all know this. We know this squad's 14-12. We know coming into this season, it was basically the exact same team. Add a Dalton Connect in there. And nobody really felt all that crazy about it. So by the time the dust settles, the hope is the Lakers went out there, they made some kind of move, and they got a little bit of time to do it. But I got to be honest with everybody. I don't think most people want to sit around and wait and hope something good happens for the Lakers. Reading a lot of the comments here, I think most of the comments, there's just a lot of people out here that are basically saying make some kind of a move. That's what I think most everybody's saying is make some kind of a move. All right, I'm going to get back with some of these comments. This is a good one. Magic was in love with Lonzo. He had him up in the rafters. You're not kidding about that. I was there at that presser too. I'm like, huh? What happened? What do you mean? Save all my records up in the rafters. I'm like, everybody want to calm down? Let's get on to the next story. So you guys see here, Magic talks on Jayson Tatum. I got a couple things I want to play for you guys here real quick. So yesterday, I'm scrolling on Twitter. All right, let me stop a couple of these. I'm going to play a couple clips here. Okay. They're a little long. One's about $1:30. The other one's a little bit longer as well. Let me set this up real quick. A couple of weeks ago, there was conversation about, all right, let me see. Let me share my screen here real quick. A couple of weeks ago, there was some chatter about Jayson Tatum basically saying, he grew up a Laker fan, he grew up a Kobe fan, and that the Lakers, they had no interest in Jayson Tatum. If you guys want to go back, I'll help remind you guys. The year that Lonzo Ball got drafted, it was Markelle Fultz at number 1. It was Lonzo at number 2. It was Jayson Tatum at number 3. I think we could all say comfortably here, yeah, the Celtics stole Tatum. By the way, the Celtics had the number 1 pick, traded it because they knew the Sixers wanted Markelle Fultz and still got Tatum at number 3. That's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. So last night on Sirius XM NBA radio, there was Magic Johnson was on there. Eddie Johnson is part of that show as well, so I'm sure they got a relationship there. And there was a conversation. Magic wanted to clear the air about the Jayson Tatum situation and why the Lakers didn't draft him. Take a listen. I want to play this for you guys, and then we'll react to it.
I wanted to address something because I didn't want us to go without addressing what Jayson Tatum said, and I wanted to make sure I addressed it first on your show, Eddie. When he said that, he was sorry or upset that, the Lakers didn't, I think, draft him or take a look at him. No, we took a look at him. I was the president. But the problem was, Eddie, we were top heavy in forwards. I couldn't take him because we had Brandon Ingram, who was only in his second year, Julius Randle, Larry Nance Jr. So I had already too many forwards.
I got to pause this real quick. I want to talk about it. It's actually a good way of doing it. I see a lot of people do this on YouTube where while the interview's going, they could pause it, talk about it. If you're Magic Johnson, right out the gate there, I don't like where this is going, where this conversation's going. It's basically Magic Johnson making an excuse of why guys, I can't take Tatum. I already had Brandon Ingram. I already had Larry Nance Jr. I already had, who's the other player that he mentioned? I already had Julius Randle. Guys, I already got too many forwards. I can't take Jayson Tatum. So let me get this right. And this is why, and listen, for me, Magic is he's my favorite player that I've ever watched play the game. And I really didn't even start watching the game until he was close towards the end of his career. I just love that floor general that can drop 10, 12 dimes. It can get you 25, his leadership, all that stuff. I don't know what Magic's talking about here. I don't. If you're Magic Johnson, so you're going to tell me if in that same draft, LeBron James was there, you're not going to take him because you already have a forward. You're going to tell me in that same draft, let's say there's a better forward than any of the forwards that you have. And I know we didn't know what Tatum was going to be. That's a mistake of looking at the draft like that. You can't say, especially for a Lakers team, you're rebuilding anyways. Who cares? Get as much talent as you possibly can. You're literally rebuilding. It doesn't matter. Keep listening to Magic.
Forwards. There was already problems because they all wanted to play, right? And so if I took another forward, we would never see this Tatum if he had ended up with the Lakers, because he would have been sitting on that bench because we were already had Julius and Brandon Ingram starting, right? So I'm just happy that we needed a point guard at that time. And that's why we took Lonzo Ball, and we didn't need the locker room to have any problems with another young forward. But I'm happy what's happened for Jayson because he's been amazing with the Celtics. And so I wanted to address that and let him know, yes, we looked at him, but his agent also didn't want us to work him out because he didn't want him to end up with the Lakers because we are already top heavy with forwards.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there. We actually don't even know to go any further because I got the clip from his agent that's going to be here for a second as well. Let me just be very, very clear here. I know we don't know what Jayson Tatum was going to be, but that's why it's good to have the conversation Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. We know what Tatum is now. So what I would have liked to have heard from Magic Johnson, and here's the reality of it, and maybe Magic doesn't want to do any of that right now, and trust me, I see the De'Aaron Fox comments. I'll get to in just a second. What I'd like to have seen Magic say was, listen, we got caught in the Lonzo Ball hype. We got caught in Lonzo Ball being from Los Angeles. We got caught in a point guard that wants to, be a player that we thought there's a lot of entertainment value, and he's going to set up BI, and he's going to set up Julius Randle, and he's going to set up Larry Nance Jr. and whoever else that you want to say. We got caught in, we need a guard. And that's what we got caught up in. But at the end of the day, when we look back on it on Tuesday, December 17th, it was the wrong decision. That's all. I think as long as you admit we made the wrong decision. A lot of people make mistakes during the NBA draft. Where did Giannis go? Where did Kawhi Leonard go? Where did Nikola Jokic went in the second round? Draymond Green went in the second round. Manu Ginobili. Go look at all these great players that went for Kobe Bryant went past top 10. Mistakes happen in the draft every single year, period. Every single year they happen. What I would like to have heard Magic say right at the end, guys, I gave you all the context of what we were thinking at that time. But Tuesday, December 17th, 2024, we made a mistake, period. Jayson Tatum should have been a Los Angeles Laker. That's all. And then I think you tell everybody, it's like, okay, yeah, they made a mistake. Guys, go look at every draft. There's people making mistakes every year. Lakers, add that to the list of a mistake that they made. That's all you got to say. But I think if you're trying to justify it, no, we couldn't do it. Nah, his agent this, his agent that. You made a mistake. You know who else was in that draft? And this is why everybody's putting the De'Aaron Fox stuff out there. I'll tell you what people are talking about. Here was the draft order. Here are the first five. Markelle Fultz went number 1 to Philly. Philly will tell you to this day, what the hell were we doing with our pick? Lonzo went number 2. Listen, I said this before. I'm a fan of Lonzo Ball. There's a point guard that wants to play defense and pass the ball. That does not happen too often in the NBA. Couldn't stay healthy. Lonzo couldn't stay healthy. We know the issues he's having in Chicago. The man couldn't stay healthy. Jayson Tatum went number 3. Josh Jackson went number 4. Every Phoenix Sun team executive would say, yeah, we made a mistake as well. De'Aaron Fox went number 5. So the best point guard in that draft, I mean, I haven't looked any further. It was De'Aaron Fox. Lauri Markkanen went a little bit further down. Donovan Mitchell went number 13. Donovan Mitchell is in that. Look, again, I'm going to say this. Bam Adebayo went a little bit further. There are all-stars every single year that are not going top 10. That's just how the NBA works. You just have no idea what eventually happens. My only issue, I thought, with Magic had more to do with Magic. Everything you just said is fair. You're right. Your justification. Here's the one thing you didn't say. And oh, by the way, we made a mistake. We should have took Jayson Tatum. And people may say, yeah, but you know what, Al? They would have traded Tatum anyways because they had to go get Anthony Davis. You don't know that. Maybe they traded Tatum in the draft, or maybe they traded Tatum as part of that deal, but they kept Brandon Ingram. You don't know that. You have no idea. We have no idea how it would have worked out. But nonetheless, however you look at it, I want to play real quick. Here's the agent. So here's what happened. Sirius XM, Magic goes on yesterday. The agent goes on Sirius XM this morning. He's explaining his side of the story of what happened. Take a quick listen.
Correct in what he said, but the way it was presented was a little different. I mean, everyone knows that the draft starts in June and guys finish the end of March Madness and they work out for months. Well, Jayson worked out in LA for months, training with Drew Hanlon there. And the Lakers knew that he was in LA and never called. And in late June, they called and wanted to bring him in for a workout. But by that time, everyone knew that they were taking Lonzo Ball. So when Rob Pelinka called me and asked if they could work Jayson out, I said, well, if you're not going to take him, why are you working him out? And so I said, get me on a call with Magic and we'll talk about it. So he set that up a few days later, get on the call with Magic. I think it was around June 13th. And I said, Magic, everyone knows you're taking Lonzo Ball. He goes, yeah, well, we're really heavy at forward position and we need to take a point guard. And so, that's probably who we're going to take. He says, but we'd like to look at everybody. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to take my guy, he's been out there all summer. He's now in St. Louis. He's working out for other teams. I'm not going to fly him back across the country for a workout when you guys aren't going to take him. And
all right, I'm going to stop it right there. Two things kind of stood out. I actually think it's a mistake from that agent too. If you got a chance, I think even if there's a small chance, I'm still working out my guy with the Lakers. And if I'm Magic Johnson, I'm also probably not telling the agent, guys, there's no chance we're not going to take your guy. What I would tell him was, no, we might be leaning towards Lonzo, but if Tatum has a great workout and we feel like, this can make a lot of sense, then we'll reassess everything. I think both sides maybe got a little bit stubborn. I think and listen, I know this was back in 2017, but I'm only bringing it up because they're bringing it up. I'm only bringing it up because there's a clip yesterday on Sirius XM of Magic and a clip today of the agent this morning with Brian Scalabrini on their show that they did in the morning. I would just, he's trying to clear the air and basically say, well, don't blame it on us. You guys were the ones that were saying you already got Lonzo, so that's why we didn't have him come work out. At the end of the day, I will say this. I think the thing that I pay attention to most, I'm okay. Mistakes are going to happen in the NBA all the time. They're going to happen in sports. They're going to happen at home. They're going to happen at your job. Just own up to your mistakes. That's all. That's it. Mistakes are going to happen. And I think if I'm Magic Johnson, I think the one thing that he left out in that entire conversation was, at the end of the day, we clearly made a mistake and we didn't read that right. At the time, this is what we thought, and we were wrong. And by the way, if we wanted a point guard, maybe we should have went with De'Aaron Fox. If we wanted another player, who would have thought Donovan Mitchell was going to be the player that he became? So that just tells you a little bit about the draft. But when I saw that yesterday, I'm like, I definitely got to bring that up. All right, let's see. Let's see what we got here. Both sides kind of close the door. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I listened to that agent yesterday, and this morning listening to it again, I don't know if he did his client, the best service there. I think, you sell the job as best as you can to Magic, like you guys have to work this guy out. And I would have done that way earlier. This guy is in LA. He's a Laker fan. He can't leave until he at least gets a workout with you guys. But the Lakers were already sold on Lonzo. They had already convinced themselves it was going to be Lonzo, and maybe it had more to do with a marketing purpose. You know, that's part of the thing that scares me a little bit about this Lakers team and front office. I think sometimes they worry too much about things that just don't mean anything. Go win. Your brand is big enough. You got followers everywhere. Literally, this is a good example when I do this show. I do this show, you know, started this channel years ago, but it's obviously, it's very Laker centric. There's a heavy Laker presence. There are people that are Laker fans all across the world. Don't worry about how many tickets you're going to sell. Don't worry about, are you going to lose part of your fan base? Don't worry about any of that stuff. All that stuff takes care of itself. Win. If you just win, that's really all anybody cares about. So that's a long way of, I guess, dancing around what was an interesting topic. Let me take a quick super here, and then I'm going to probably switch gears here. I got a couple things I want to do on the MLB, and then what's going on with boxing? Are we doing this again? Are we picking some random people? I'm probably going to watch again, by the way. All right, let me see this super here real quick. I appreciate the super. Northborough AES. Lakers are tone deaf. AD and Bron need defenders, not scoring. Need athleticism. Westbrook is now thriving in the right situation. Get the hint. You know, it's crazy. There's been a lot of players that have left the Lakers and done a pretty good job. Malik Monk in Sacramento. Scottie Pippen Jr. I'm watching in Memphis. Didn't really have a good game against us on Sunday. There are definitely some players out there that have left the Lakers and have had, was it Jay Huff, I think is the other dude from Memphis that's playing well, that have had kind of found themselves a home and have played good ball. So I appreciate the super there. I appreciate all the comments here. I know show's kind of moving right now. We got a lot going on. Let's see what else we got here. Slee, there was only one worse pick in the history of the draft besides Lonzo, which is Sam Bowie before MJ, so Magic can feel better. No, I think, listen, I gotta tell you something. If you know, go look back on any draft. And I'm not even trying to defend the Lakers. Go look back on any draft. Who was taken? You know, KD was taken number 2. Who was taken number 1? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. KD was taken up. Portland's got a few picks where it's like Hall of Famers went after the Portland Trailblazers. So there are plenty of drafts that have gone out where players or just teams have made mistakes. Every single year, there's 5 teams that made a mistake. Every single year. It happens. I think my point was just own up to it. Okay, let me switch gears here. When we got about 5-6 minutes left in the show. So there's a couple other things I want to put in there. People are putting here Greg Oden. Trust me, every single year, Anthony Bennett, every single year, there are players, there are teams out there that make mistakes. Do you guys see this story? There was a story out there. I got just a couple quick things in MLB baseball. And I thought this was kind of, funny, but at the same time, it just depends which fan base you're asking for. You guys remember Game 5 World Series, Yankees and the Dodgers. Basically, I stopped watching baseball. That was it. When I didn't even know baseball was still going on after Game 5 of the NLDS. I just spent every evening after that at Petco Park under the bleachers. Aaron Judge dropped that game, the Game 5 where the Yankees are up 5-0, and it all kind of unraveled. Was it 5th, 6th inning, whenever it was? Aaron Judge dropped the ball, and it ended up being, you know, one of the highlights that you really watch in the World Series. It wasn't just that. Garrett Cole not covering first. There was a play at third. I forget who it was that was trying to make a play. Anyways, Yankees had plenty of errors in that game and just played sloppy baseball in general. The Game 5 Aaron Judge ball that was dropped in center field was part of an auction, and it sold for $43,510. Who would have thought that ball all of a sudden was going to become part of charity? There was a sports radio host, which, sometimes I have the TuneIn app, tune in. You could listen to any sports talk radio station in the country. And if you guys know my history, and I think I've said this to you guys before, I love sports talk radio. Like just growing up back in the 15, 16 years old, I used to listen to sports talk radio. And I always have curiosity of, okay, what's this market have to say? You know what? Let me hear a different perspective somewhere else. New York, obviously one of those markets. There was one of their hosts, his name's Evan Roberts, WFAN sports radio host, was really, really, I guess, criticizing the Dodgers for auctioning off the Aaron Judge dropped ball. I think he brought a lot more attention to this than probably necessary. He said, I think the Dodgers showed who they are. They're a bunch of classless pigs. Okay. Probably just a radio host looking for a little bit of attention. I don't know if he was really losing that much sleep over it, but I did think it was interesting that ball went for 43 and change. It's not even, that ball has nothing to do with Shohei. It has nothing to do with, I think the Freddie Freeman ball that he hits the grand slam in game 1, I think went for over $1 million or something like that. And we know how, expensive these balls are. 43 for an air. And that wasn't even the end of the game. It's not like the game ended there. 43 G's. Jesus. Some people are doing pretty good in life. Imagine that. Imagine that you got 43K sitting around and you're like, yeah, man, this is the ball. What ball? Yeah, this is the ball. I got it. It's the Aaron Judge ball. What? Aaron Judge hit a home run? Or what do you mean? Is it Aaron Judge breaking the record for most home runs as a Yankee? Is it Aaron Judge getting over 60 home runs? No, man. This is the ball. What ball are you talking about? The air in the 5th inning. You paid $43K for an air in the 5th? I just think that's kind of funny. That's good living for somebody out there. Somebody's doing pretty damn good. All right, let's see what we got here. You're right. It is for charity. It is a good thing. No question about it. But I think you know what I'm talking about. Just straight up 43K. No problem. Here you go. Let me cut you a check here real quick. Give me that air. Give me that air. Yeah, somebody saying on here, did you see Freddie Freeman ball home run sold for over 1.5? I thought it was over $1 million, but maybe it's 1.5, whatever it is. Jesus. That's crazy. Nasli, that drop ball, no one will forget. It started one of the greatest comebacks. Yeah, but it's not like, listen, it did. But let me use as an example. The Buckner ball that goes through the legs, right? That's it. The game was over, right? This was in the 5th inning, and then there was so many other plays that had to happen. But maybe you're right. Maybe there's a little bit more to it. I'm going to give one baseball update since really there hasn't been that much noise. I did read an article earlier this morning about Teoscar Hernandez. If you guys remember this, probably about a week ago, I put out a video basically saying, I don't think Teoscar Hernandez is coming back to the Dodgers. But part of the reason why I said that is because I thought teams that did not get Juan Soto were going to go overpay for Teoscar Hernandez. Kerry Miller, who's got a column in Bleacher Report, he's reporting that there are baseball insiders out there that are saying Teoscar Hernandez could very well end up signing a deal with the Cincinnati Reds on a 3-year, $66 million deal. Let me read a little bit of the piece that he wrote. The Dodgers recently signed Michael Conforto to a 1-year, $17 million deal. Of course, a right-hand bat. So they might be out on re-signing Teoscar Hernandez. As things presently stand, it's looking like they'll have Conforto, Tommy Edman, Andy Pages, James Outman, and Chris Taylor as outfield options, plus Mookie Betts on days Miguel Rojas. Miguel Rojas gets to start at shortstop. They might bring up Dalton Rushing as well as one of their prospects. Let me tell you this, as somebody who's a Padres fan, I hope that's their outfield. I actually, I think Teoscar is a really, really big piece for the Dodgers. So I'd be a little bit surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if they don't re-sign him because of all the other moves that they've made. But I think he's a critical piece, and I think there's a lot of Dodger fans, certainly on this chat, that typically say, hey, they got to go make him a priority. If you're asking me, of course I hope he ends with the Cincinnati Reds. Teoscar Hernandez was a clutch player and a big-time clubhouse guy for that Dodgers team. I thought he was phenomenal for the Dodgers, but there's a report out there, at least since it's been pretty quiet. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. 3-year, $66 million deal is what's being reported that the Cincinnati Reds are trying to go get Teoscar Hernandez. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. The only thing I will say to that, it's like, Teoscar, go get your money, 100%. Want to play in Cincinnati? Like, my thought was he goes to Boston or he goes to New York, the Yankees, or he goes to Toronto. He's playing in a division where baseball actually matters. He's playing in a division where, I'm not saying it doesn't matter in Cincinnati, but obviously the resources that those other teams have, it's going to be incredibly competitive, and he can use what some of that momentum that he had in the World Series and in that playoff run with the Dodgers. So we'll see what happens there. All right, I saw this morning as well. Let me find what I saw here. I don't know how you guys feel about, I got 2 more things and then we're going to call it a day. I don't know how you guys feel about this exhibition boxing. We just watched Logan Paul, or no, we watched Jake Paul. Did I write the title wrong? Man, I don't even know. Yep, I put Jake Paul. Yep, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. That's how much I have no idea what's going on when it comes to some of these fighters. I thought it was Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor. It's actually Logan Paul, which is his brother, which I still don't understand all the allure and everything else. Conor McGregor says he agrees to fight Logan Paul in India. I'm not going to get into the details. I'm just going to say this. 100% I put Jake Paul. 100% I put Jake Paul. I think this is where we are, guys. I think this is where boxing is going. Until you have, until it takes another turn where boxers are all about boxing and they don't care about how many losses they have. They just want to get in a ring and try to show that they're the best and the baddest in the business. Right now, there's money grabs going on. And frankly, we're to blame for it. Because if we're watching on Netflix and getting 60 million views, or we're paying for it on pay-per-view, or however we're watching it, if we're watching these exhibition matches and these guys are getting paid tens of millions of dollars, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So we'll see what eventually happens. But I saw this morning. I saw that Conor McGregor says he agrees to fight Logan Paul in India. And on top of that, this is not like this was just some random article in a random, sports story. No, it was ESPN. ESPN has on its boxing page on home, it has, a couple different things that are going on, but the main headline is McGregor agrees to box Logan Paul in India. That's where we are in boxing. And, unfortunately for that sport, it's becoming an exhibition. And especially if you got main outlets that are covering it that way as well. The main outlets don't really care about the integrity of boxing. What gets us views? What gets us clicks? And that's all they're worried about. So something to keep in mind. And somebody that's asking, yeah, this is a perfect way to put it. Slee, it's basically the WWE with boxing gloves. So random. The fight is in India. Probably not when you start looking at, I'm sure that has just to do with the financial side of things. They want the fight there and they'll pay whatever it is to make it happen. Okay, last thing I'm going to get into, and I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you to Jake Fischer for being a part of the show as well. Last thing I'm going to get into tonight, Milwaukee Bucks versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Milwaukee Bucks versus Oklahoma City Thunder in Vegas, in-season tournament game. I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to watch. I'm kind of running around tonight, but I'm going to watch it, in some capacity. I'll probably talk about it at some point tomorrow. So the in-season tournament, for some reason, has attracted at least me. I don't know if everybody else is interested, but that game is going to be going on tonight. Lakers don't have a game until Thursday. They got back-to-back against Sacramento. Yesterday, a great game. Denver, Sacramento, 130-129. Jamal Murray hit a shot to win it for the Denver Nuggets. But Lakers got 2 in a row coming up not until Thursday against Sacramento. All right. I appreciate you guys. Hanging out here. $1.05 today. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for helping this channel out. Thank you for supporting the channel. I see a lot of comments that whether it's live or it's later on that I look back on, always paying attention to your guys' opinion of the show, but I also see a lot of positivity towards the channel and the show as well. So thank you. Appreciate that. It means a lot. And hopefully we'll continue to make it happen on this channel and continue to give you guys a product that you're looking for. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.